Welcome to this podcast from the Global Leader Group on leadership. This is a series of talking to incredible leaders and people from around the world. And I'm excited to have today as my co-host and guest, Dale Murphy. Dale is a senior partner with Global Leader Group, but you know him from his baseball career. So we're going to talk about Dale today, understand more about him, what he's experienced, and just have a great time.
Thank you, Jonathan, and I'm excited to be a part of Global Leader Group. Thank you so much, and fun to be here today.
It's exciting. I'm going to reminisce a little bit before we dive into this, because I grew up in California, and I remember seeing you and watching you play in the 80s and 90s. And
when you were a little kid.
I was just a little puppy back then, and it was incredible to see you play. I actually do remember going to one night where you were playing the Dodgers, and I actually went and saw you play in LA. So this was, I don't remember what happened in the game. So you probably hit a home run.
Either do I. I'm sure I did. Well, Dodger Stadium is just one of those, people always ask me, favorite places to play besides Atlanta. And I always say Dodger Stadium, and in the National League, we didn't have interleague play back then. Dodger Stadium and Wrigley Field. Dodger Stadium was the first stadium built only for baseball. And it was just iconic and so much history in it. So
well, and you had Dodger dogs. So I mean, this is one of the
I can't
things
tell you how many times I sent the clubhouse boy before a game out to get Dodger dogs. I'm not kidding you. The locker room was way too close to the grill. But every player talks about Dodger dogs, absolutely. But great place to play. Great place to play.
Well, we're going to do a series of episodes with you. So this first one, I really want to kind of just talk about your career. So let's think about. Walk us through a little bit of what it was like. I know you grew up in Portland, so kind of start from the beginning. Tell us how you got to the big leagues and some of the experiences along the way.
Yeah, it was so much different pre-internet days. Of course, in the 70s, we didn't really have a lot of information. I knew I had some scouts watching me in high school. Went to Wilson High School in Portland, Oregon, and knew about maybe my sophomore year. There were always some scouts watching us during the summer. We had a real good American Legion summer team. But then my junior year, I really got the feeling from my coach, legendary coach in college and high school baseball in the Hall of Fame, Jack Dunn. Jack let me know that, and my parents, there were scouts watching me. So had to prepare me for my senior year in high school, because baseball drafts high school players and college players once they pass their junior year in college. So didn't have a lot of information. I knew there were a few scouts there, and sure enough, it happened. I don't want to say we were surprised, but we just really didn't know what to think, my parents and I. And sure enough, on draft day, I got a phone call from the Atlanta Braves, and was selected in the first round, the fifth player picked in the first round, which I don't remember my exact feelings. I was pretty nervous and didn't know what to expect. And that was a great day, an exciting day, but very fortunate to have very supportive parents in whatever sport I wanted to play. They gave me an opportunity to try it out. I obviously started gravitating towards baseball. I knew that was my best shot, either to get a scholarship. I was going to go to Arizona State University. I had signed a letter of intent, but had a great baseball program, great friends. Just grew up typically playing a lot of wiffle ball and thinking.
Who would have thought wiffle ball you'd end up in the pros?
I think I learned a lot about baseball playing wiffle ball. To have some fun, and that's what the game's all about. And then I got drafted in '74, and off I went. My parents and I decided, that it would be give it a shot.
Yeah.
But I really was kind of blind to, what the future would hold. I signed. I went immediately to Kingsport, Tennessee. Had never been in the southeast part of the United States, and then off I went, and I was pretty nervous.
What was that like going into? You started off the minors.
Yeah.
Kind of tell us about a little bit of that minors experience and what happened there.
Yeah, it was. Looking back, it was a tremendous experience. And today's ball players are ready to move quite rapidly through the system. They play a lot more baseball at a young age, so they're a little more prepared. But in the 70s, I played some high school baseball, but not a lot of baseball. So I made every stop in the minor leagues, making it to the major leagues. But first stop, so it goes rookie ball, A ball, double A, triple A, and I made every stop.
How many years were you in the minors?
About 4. Okay. Now it's a little confusing because I got called up at the end of some major league seasons, but I was in the minor leagues for 4 years, and it's an apprenticeship. You know, it really is. Back then, the theory was a player's going to need 2,000 at bats in the minor leagues to see if he can be a major league player, which takes about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And
so that was pretty typical time frame?
Yeah, back then. Now it's a little quicker because they play more baseball at younger ages now. And I look back, and it really, in a lot of ways, was one of the. You're a kid. You're with a bunch of kids trying to figure out, you know, what you're doing. If you can make it to the major leagues, you're really not thinking about the major leagues. When I signed, I was just thinking. I was so homesick. I wanted to go home. I mean, I'm in Kingsport.
Because you're there by yourself.
Yeah, and guys from all over the country and the world, and I was so homesick for Portland. I didn't do very well my first year or my second year. I was homesick. I was just like, I just want to get back to Portland and all my buddies. But it started to become more comfortable. But it was a rude awakening in many ways.
Do you remember any moments in the minors during that 4-year period where things started to click, where you started to see, all right, I'm on my way, I'm going to make it?
Yeah, there were some times, but there were some tough times as well. Times that I felt really high and really low, I guess is the best way to say it. You know, if you have a couple good games, you kind of think you've figured the game out, and then you got to remember you're playing again, the competition is so fierce. You're playing against hundreds of guys that were high school All-Americans, made their all-city team, or were college All-Americans. I remember starting out at 18, 19, seeing guys that were 22 and 23 and 24. I'm like, these guys are so old and experienced and so much more, stronger than I am, that there would be just, I got this game figured out, and then there'd be games where you're like totally overmatched. So I had ups and downs, definitely. I had position changes. My path to the big leagues was not a straight path, a straight shot to the big leagues. It took a few turns here and there.
So now let's think about, you made it into the big leagues. What was that first at bat like?
It was in Dodger Stadium.
Was it really?
Yeah.
And the Dodgers won, right?
I'm sure they did. We were too good for quite a few years, but what happens in baseball is the last month of the season they can call up some minor league guys and expand their roster. So I got called up in September of 1976, and it was really strange because in 73 and 74 in high school, watching those great Dodger teams with Steve Garvey and Davey Lopes and Bill Russell, Ron Cey, Tommy Lasorda was there. And all those great pitchers. I think I can't remember who they played in the World Series, but I was just a few years earlier. I was playing wiffle ball with my friends, and now I'm in Dodger Stadium.
Oh my goodness!
And
you're how old at this time?
20? I'm 20. Yeah,
20 years old.
76. Yeah, 20. And scared to death, really. I just, everybody tried to calm me down, but when you walk from the minor leagues, you're playing in front of not too many people, 800, 1,000, sometimes 2,000, and you walk into Dodger Stadium. And I'll remember my first at bat. I got up there and I didn't know what to do, so I decided to take, let the first pitch go by because I was like, I got to see what major league pitching is like. And it was from Rick Rhoden, and he threw that first pitch. I was like, I should have swung at that because I could have hit that. And so there's just a psychological adjustment to where you try to tell yourself, okay, I can do this. And so I decided, okay, I got to start swinging. I swung. I hit a little slow dribbler down the third base line, ran as fast as I could, and I beat it out.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So your
for my
first
hit.
at bat was a hit.
Yeah. So
a dribble, but still a hit.
Well, like they like to say, it was a line drive in the newspaper. People say, Dale went 1 for 3. My parents probably said, hey, that was probably a line drive to left field. Yeah, line drive in the newspaper. And so I got to first base, and Steve Garvey goes, "Hey, congratulations, kid. I hope you get many more." And I was
Really?
just, yeah.
I'm a huge Steve Garvey fan.
Well,
actually,
Steve's
so.
the best, and it's been fun. It was fun to compete against him, and do some things after we retired. He's always been great, and so that was it. And I kind of settled down, and it's hard to settle down though. That first experience, and even the next day, you walk out, and there's that huge stadium. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I don't remember what I did the rest of the game. that first one was a hit, so I'm thankful for it. I got that ball.
All right, now since you've had this incredible baseball career, you actually have had a second career where you've gone out now and have spoken around the world, and you do keynote addresses to companies and individuals. In that journey that you've kind of had in baseball, in your keynote addresses, are there any experiences that you had, maybe from a teammate or from a coach, that kind of really helped you in your career to either make it or to see it a different way and really start to progress?
Yeah, there's two that come to mind, and it's both from teammates and or I guess in the business world you can just say coworkers.
Yeah.
But I think what I notice is you have coaches, you have managers, but teammates can always have kind of a different relationship. And I look back at two incidences from my teammates that had some very honest feedback for me that I don't think I would have asked for, but I really needed. And the first story I think of is Gene Garber. So Gene, very experienced pitcher, played with the Royals, played with the Phillies right before he came with the Braves, and played with Hall of Famer Mike Schmidt, who it was someone I loved watching and competing against and really respected. Arguably the best third baseman in the history of the game. Arguably a lot of Brooks Robinsons and Chipper Jones fans out there. So, you want to have fun out there. You want to relax, but you also have to remember that this is your job. This is the most important thing that you're doing right now. It's not the most important thing in your life, but while you're on the field, you've signed a contract. You have a responsibility to take it serious. Certainly, there's times when you can relax and laugh and things like that, but that isn't. But here's what happened. I was taking batting practice, and one of the guys said something, and it reminded me of one of my teammates, and I was imitating his swing, his idiosyncrasies when his swing, and guys were laughing, and I said something like, "Who's this?" And this was during batting practice, and I just thought it was kind of an innocent thing and goofing around. Guys around the batting cage were kind of laughing. Well, after batting practice was over, Gene Garber, I went to the outfield and started shagging fly balls, and Gene Garber just kind of, came up next to me. He goes, "Murph, how you doing?" I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, what's up?" He goes, I saw you take batting practice." He goes, "I just want you to know, I never saw Mike Schmidt goof around in the batting cage." And I don't know what I said, but I was like, I was just goofing around for 5-10 seconds. But it was something I'm so thankful Gene said to me, because no one else said it, and he was like, "No, this is serious business. This is a game. It's baseball. It's not the most important thing in life, but right now, Murph, you got to take this seriously. Don't goof around in the batting cage."
You know what I love about that story? A lot of times in leadership, people are waiting for that chance to be a leader because someone reports into them. They've got a team member that they're looking after. And that's an example of a peer that doesn't have anyone reporting into them, but still chooses to be a leader and step up and share a thought or idea that's going to help someone. I love that.
He cared about me. He saw something in me. You got a lot of potential. I was obviously a young player. He cared about me. That's why he said something honest to me and said, "Don't do that." Didn't scold me, but the way he said it. I never saw Mike Schmidt goof around in the batting cage. I mean, it was incredible. And then I had another experience from a teammate that, looking back, he cared about me too. Gary Matthews started out with the Giants, got traded to the Braves when I was there, ended up with the Phillies and the Cubs, went to a World Series with the Phillies. He was just a great example. He was one of the older, more experienced players when we first started out with the Braves. all of us young players loved him. He played with flair. He played with pizzazz. He was aggressive. He was having fun out there, and had great personality and just very great teammate. And one day in Chicago, same thing. I was taking batting practice around the batting cage, and I was young, probably my second year in the major leagues, and I was struggling. And he came up to me next to me, right outside the batting cage. He goes, "How you doing?" I'm going, "I'm really struggling." He goes, "Yeah, I know." He goes, and then he said, "Are you scared?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm in the big leagues." And I don't know what I said. I probably had I don't remember what I said, but definitely the next thing out of his mouth was, "You look like you're playing scared." And so that, I was like, well, what does it look like? And that can, you could just be timid. You can, in baseball, being a timid hitter is not, or in any sport, being an athlete, you can't be timid. There has to be an aggressiveness. Even if it's a part of your personality or not, you gotta really get in there and mix it up. And it came across to him that I was nervous and or scared. Nervous would have been okay, but when he said scared,
like, what are you talking about?
yeah, exactly. I wanted to, confront him, but I didn't. And I'm like, well, if there's one thing I'm going to do going forward is I'm not going to look scared. And there's that old fake it till you make it kind of thing. But really, psychologically, you can't let opponents think that you're timid or scared or nervous. And so I said, oh, I got to change that. And I've seen Gary many years after that.
Did you tell him about that?
Yeah. I said, hey, do
you
you remember? And I told him the whole story. He goes, I didn't say that. I said, yes, you did, Gary. I'll never forget it, and I'll always be grateful that you said it to me, because it challenged me. Like Gene challenged me in a good, positive way. It's constructive criticism, but it wasn't because they were being mean. It's because they cared about me.
Yeah.
They wanted me to succeed. Teammate wanted to see me succeed. And what a great teammate that is to see you succeed in your own way.
So if you look back at your career and you think about the pinnacle, I don't know if the back-to-back MVP was that, but talk to me a little bit about how you got to the point where you were at your very, very best. What were some of the things that helped you get there, or was it mindset? Was it just rhythm? What were the kind of the secrets of getting that MVP that first year?
Yeah, I think in 1982, again, 1980 was okay. 1980 was a good year for me. It was my first year in the outfield. I made the All-Star team. 81 was okay. It was, average. And then 82 came along. And so there's a combination of a lot of things, I think. Our team started winning, which really, when you're part of a winning team, some people say, well, is there a lot of pressure being part of a winning team? It's like, it's so much easier to play, because when you're winning as a team, everybody's doing pretty good. Mm-hmm. The attitude is pretty good. It's when you're losing, you play 162 games in the major leagues. When you're losing 100, which I've been in that situation, that's where the real pressure is, because people aren't showing up to the games. Everybody's got problems. But our team started winning, and I really just came into my own. It was Joe Torre's first year with the Atlanta Braves. He and I had a real good relationship as far as playing the game. We were similar in style and in size, and he was a catcher, and he moved to first base a little bit, so he really understood me, and I loved to play for him. And so it was a combination of just this confidence. Like my first experience in the major leagues, totally overmatched psychologically and physically, mentally, and then by 82, I never felt overmatched. I mean, obviously in baseball you don't get a hit every time, but I never felt like I was going on the field that I couldn't compete. And then there's a certain flow that athletes talk about, but really probably exists in every field, a creative field, which I kind of think sports is kind of a creation. Yeah. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. You have to improvise occasionally. You get into that flow, and you have the flow, you have the confidence, you have a good team, and it just it just kind of happens. So it's nothing that well, obviously there's some individual accomplishments, but there's just so much around you that leads to that experience of of succeeding, and I ended up winning the most valuable player in '82, and I mean
awesome.
it was incredible.
So at that point, you're, what, 26? 26.
Yeah.
I love hearing about that first MVP year. What probably to me is the most impressive part? I mean, you've got all the accolades, the Lou Gehrig Award, and you've got Golden Gloves and all of that, right? Amazing stuff. But I look at that back-to-back MVP. I think you're the youngest player ever to do it, if I remember
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to get into the big leagues. If you get into the big leagues, you're the best of the best, right? To get the MVP, you're the best of the best of the best. And to do it back to back, to me, that is incredible. So you got to the top of the top. How did you stay there? And what was kind of that experience for that second MVP year?
Well, yeah, it kind of snuck up on me a little bit. Getting established in 1980 in the outfield, I made my first All-Star team, but '81 was not great, and then '82 came along, and we ended up having a really good start, but and a really good team, and I ended up just being confident in myself and having that flow state, as I mentioned earlier, throughout the season, which I had never experienced before. At the end of the season, though, I wasn't really swinging the bat that well the last couple of weeks. And after the season, Joe Torre said, "Hey," called me up on the phone. He goes, there's an instructional league down in Florida for young minor leaguers during the winter. And he said, "I want to take you down to instructional league and talk about hitting right after the season." This was right after the season. He goes, "I don't like the way you ended." And then,
As the MVP.
Yeah, well, and then I get a call the next week and I win the MVP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get a phone call. And so I win the MVP and I'm going down to instructional league. So there's a lot of so people would say, "No, wait a minute, you won the MVP and you went to instructional league?" And I said, "Well, it wasn't quite, that wasn't the timing. We had already planned on it, and then I won the award." But your question about how did it happen in '83, it really started after the season in '82. Like I said, Joe didn't like the way I finished, and we just went down there, took some BP, batting practice, and he talked about some philosophies of hitting and reminded me of some things that I had forgot the last couple weeks. And so I went through that off season, really probably more prepared for '83 than I did for '82.
Really?
And also psychologically, what I said to myself, I remember specifically saying when I was working out in the off season was, "Okay, you won the MVP. There's going to be some expectations. The only thing you control is your workouts and being ready, and being motivated, and why you're going to get up every day and lift your weights and get ready to go, and how you're going to take batting practice is because you're the most valuable player." And I never had thought about repeating. I just thought of using that award that I had won and that recognition as a motivation for being ready to go and doing all that I could. And we ended up having another good team, and Joe Torre was our manager still, and I ended up having a better year in '83 than '82. I really think it started right after the '82 season when Joe Torre said, "Let's go down to instructional league and get in your mind for the off season some things that you could do differently." And it really helped me get going. So I in '83 I was playing with more confidence.
Wow.
I tried not to let that award. I didn't want to get. In baseball, there's a saying that goes, there are either humble baseball players or players that are about to be humbled. It is a very challenging sport, and so I was never overconfident. But when I got on the field or in the batter's box in '83, I just had more confidence. I tried to use that to build my confidence as opposed to make me nervous about my performance.
I love that idea that here you were the MVP, and yet what you focused on the offseason was the basics, the fundamentals.
Absolutely. I got away from the fundamentals the last couple of weeks of '82 and we won our division, but really wasn't any thanks to me the last couple of weeks, which is a critical time. Our whole team competed, but contributed. But yeah, baseball, as any sport is, or anything we do in life, is really does get back to fundamentals. Everybody says it, but it's absolutely so true. And Joe, during the off season of '82, '83, got me focused right in on it. Had me thinking all winter about fundamentals of hitting.
Dale, thank you so much. This
Thank
has
you,
been
Jonathan.
incredible.
Thank
Talk
you so
about
much.
baseball and
Absolutely.
hearing about your career. We
My
really
favorite thing
appreciate
to
it.
talk about. Thank you.
I love it. It's been great. And if you've enjoyed listening to Murph and you'd like to bring him out to your upcoming event or program, please go to globalleadergroup.com and contact us. We'd love to talk to you about it. It's going to be incredible. Go out there and be the global leader.